Hello guys, this is Gino here. Today I'm going to tell you one of my story is that how I become a real estate agent. Back then, that was end of 2008 during the recession period. I was actually working as a sales engineer in one of the local company. I wasn't very happy back then. I'm fortunate enough to have a mentor. He actually told me this that why not you try as a property agent, as a real estate agent. Try for a 6 month. Whether you can make it or you cannot make it, this 6 months you will know. And then back then, if you don't really suitable for this career, then you can still look for another job. Back then, my fear was that I'm not familiar in this industry. I'm staying in my mom's place in a HDB flat, and we don't shift. We don't shift very frequently. No, we don't shift at all in my past 20 years living there, and I don't see my neighbors shifting either. So I was actually a bit concerned how can a real estate or property agent find a business when I don't see any transactions going on frequently. So actually this mentor advised me that and told me that actually real estate, there's a different category. There's a residential real estate and there's a commercial real estate. Of course, there's several others. He told me that you can actually consider trying as a commercial office-based real estate agent because one thing, you don't need to have a car, and it is office hour 9 to 6, so you are familiar with the working environment, and it is good money as well. So I'm thinking, what office space is like, how much is a rental, how much commission can I get? And he actually told me that office space can be very expensive in Raffles Place, District 1, CBD area. So I decided to give it a shot since I'm not going to stay in that company anyway. So I just give myself some preparation for up to 6 months of trying out this new thing. I can still remember that when I first trying out, most of my surrounding friends or family members, they are not very supportive because that was during the recession period and people can't find a job, and I'm actually intend to quit my job. So it's actually not a very logical mindset or logical thinking. Then my mentor actually also told me that actually during the recession period, when a downtime, it is actually the best opportunity to enter this market because this is the time whereby the landlord, they are hunger for business. So they are more they have more patience in terms of teaching and guiding you along the way, and sharing information willingly with you, hoping that you will actually bring them more tenants or clients. So this is the good time to actually learn about the business. And then when the economy goes up is when you are fully equipped with all the knowledge and you are ready to ride the wave. So I always so this is actually how he actually convinced me that actually there isn't any good time. I mean, bad time is actually a better time to actually enter this industry. So my mentor managed to convince me. So I joined my friend Jason Tan to become a real estate agent. And I can still remember my first day, or when I first starting out, I reached the office around 8 a.m. in the morning, get myself sorted out, have the laptop ready, get all things ready. And by 9 a.m. I start doing cold callings. I got this commercial, the Yellow Pages book back then. I think they are still exist now. So I just open up first page and I just call them one by one, which was one of the traditional free method taught by my mentor. He used to start with that. So I call for the first 2 to 3 months. And the purpose of calling is also good that it is also one way to actually learn about the industry. So by looking through all the addresses, by making phone callings every day, I start to realize that there are certain patterns, and by looking at the address, I somehow more or less rather know that this company is established. By the type of phone numbers they have, I can also tell that whether this company is an established company. So I learned quite a fair bit foundation and by doing cold callings through the number every day. So that's how I started. And I still remember that there's this once I managed to talk to a prospect over the phone, and we talked about this building. And almost end of the conversation, he actually told me that, "Okay, do you know that this building does not exist anymore? It has been redeveloped, demolished, kind of thing." So it was one of the most embarrassing moments I can recall when in the initial stage. So after that, I decided to understand my product very, very well. So what I did was that I go to Street Dietary. Back then there isn't any Google Map that time. So I go to streetdietary.com and go to my my so-called my territory, my area, which is District 1 and 2 in Singapore. I screenshot all the the map area, and I stitch them together and print out in an A4 size paper. So during the weekends, I'll just go down there and then just walk the ground to familiarize with the buildings, the street name, that kind of thing. And I just basically make sure that I cover every area to make sure that all the office commercial building is at my fingertip. I know them, by heart, that kind of thing. So all the weekends I'll be walking along this street endlessly until I'm so familiar, until I can actually memorize them and telling you the address side by side all the way from Raffles Place to Tanjong Pagar, District 1 to 2, that kind of detail to build up my confidence. In order to familiarize with the office building, I also did an Excel spreadsheet. So while I walk the ground during the weekends, I will also list down what is the, how does the building looks like. I will so-called give them a grade, whether this is a grade A, grade B, or grade C, that kind of thing, to know that whether this building is new or old building, just by looking at the address later on. Why I do this is because there was once I brought a client to the viewing. It was a law firm. I actually showed them an office building that is very, very old, and it really don't have any corporate image at all. So they didn't really scold me at that point of time, but then their facial expression tells a lot that I'm not professional in my job. So I decided to really understand every building, which is why I have this list to show me that which building is new and old. So I will need to understand their business first, and whether I should recommend a more decent building or a more budget building. So those were the days when I do some cold callings. And I also can remember that when you're not familiar, over the phone people can tell. There was one I was trying to arrange a viewing in the AIA building that was 1 Robinson Road. The landlord actually did question me, did have some doubt and say that, "Are you sure you know where is 1 Robinson Road or where is AIA building," that kind of thing. So after I done that, I really get familiar with all the buildings, so I'm more confident in the cold callings, and I'm able to actually speak more confidently in the cold calling. So I think that's one important lesson that I learned along the way. After 2 to 3 months of cold callings, there isn't really immediate results. I didn't close a single deal. There are some activities going on, viewings here and there, but I didn't close a single deal. Most of the response I get from cold calling is that they already found an office, they just found an office, or they will be looking to look for an office next year. So it is not an immediate results. And I'm fortunate enough to have this colleague of mine. He actually he probably saw that I'm actually in the office 8 a.m. back then go home at 9 p.m. on a daily basis. So he actually kind enough to actually come to me and say that, "Hey, Kay," that was my business name, Kay. So he actually told me that, "Hey Kay, why not you try doing some online posting, post some of your listings online, and maybe you can get some response there." So this is the like a door opening for me. So I tried doing some posting, and surprisingly enough, the next day I got calls coming in looking for an office. It was like an immediate requirement from them. It is a totally different approach of marketing, and I find that it is so much easier than having to call hundreds of calls every day. Instead of me reaching out to people, now people actually call me that they require my service to help them to look for office space. So because of that, I began to dig deeper and do more activities on that. I began to search for the top 10 portals, property portals that actually enable me to do my posting online. I start posting, then I start to do very frequent posting. I start posting on 8 a.m, finish before 9 a.m, so that when they are in office, the potential prospect in office open up the internet, and they will probably see my listing on the first page. So I plan my schedule accordingly. To post about 10 portals, it will require me about one hour time to do all the posting, everything. So this is how I get the momentum going, and I have more frequent activities, I have more viewings going on. I didn't close my first deal until the 6th month. So for the first 5 months, I was actually having zero sales, at all $0. And on the 6th month, I can remember my first deal. It was also a very interesting thing that I have this client. Actually, they have an office there at the Miramar Hotel. It's a small office unit, and they are looking for another office. So I managed to bring them to this Shenton House, 3 Shenton Way, the address. And it was actually a small office. Back then was about 1,500 the unit, I can remember. So my commission should be about 1,500 as well. And during the end of the closing, all the documentation, everything done, everything signed, and then he told me, he tried to shortchange me, saying that we have some issues with the cash flow kind of thing, and try to cut my commission. And that was my very first deal, and I was so desperate that I want this deal so badly that I accepted it at $750 for my first commission. During that time, the money is not the main priority. My main priority is actually to close my first deal. There's this saying in this real estate industry that the first deal, they call it the first egg, is the hardest to break. But then once you break your first egg, you close your first deal, everything will just come naturally. You will have the momentum, everything will just flow. So which is why this first deal is so important to me, that I accepted having to cut my commission by half. So my first deal was $750. I can still remember. I was so happy that I sent out text to all my friends and colleagues that I broke my first egg that day. Strange enough, after that, all the deals came very naturally, and I began to do better and better, and my sales keep very consistent throughout the months. So that's my story of how I become a real estate agent. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.